Hi, this video is going to be teaching you how to solve simultaneous equations in maths. This will go through the type of problems where you generally see the same coefficient. I will explain what that means. So if no one knows what that means, just write that. Okay, so the word coefficient, okay, if I said coefficient of x, for example, that would simply just be the number that you see in front of x. So if I look at the first equation here, you can see there's a 4 there right in front of the x. And so the coefficient of x for that one would be 4. And if I instead said the coefficient of y, then that would be the 3 that you see there. Okay? So just be aware of that. Coefficient is just the number that you see in front of a term. So you can see that, in this particular case, the coefficient of y is in fact the same. I can see that there's an opposite sign there, so you can see that one has a +3 and a -3, but that's okay, we can deal with that. We just want to see the same number, so the 3. Okay. Now of course you don't see that on the x's, that's fine. We only need one of them to be the same. So I follow a very simple process when I do simultaneous equations. So I use this approach, which I call same sign subtract. If you can remember this, it will really help. Okay, there's 3 s's there, so it's quite easy to remember. And what I mean by same sign, okay, is when I'm looking at the term with the same coefficient, you can see we have 3's here. If I had the same sign in front of those 3's, then I would put a subtraction symbol on both sides of this equation. But if you actually have a look in front of those 3's, you should see that one has a plus and one has a minus. Okay, so there's actually an opposite sign there. So since it's not the same sign, I'm not going to subtract, I'm going to do the absolute opposite, and I'm going to add instead. Okay. Okay, so the beauty of this method is that you don't have to worry about these two here that have the same coefficient if you follow this method. Okay, so if we just perform this like a column addition now, we've got 4x add x, which is 5x. Okay, these two here will cancel in the middle. I will just prove that for you. Okay, we've got +3y, let me just write that. Okay, then we've got an addition, and then it says -3y. So writing all of that out like that. Okay, I don't need this positive symbol at the front, that's just implied like that. If we have a plus and a minus next to each other, that will turn into a minus. So this is 3y, take away 3y, which would just give you 0. Okay, so like I said, the middle terms here will just cancel, the ones that have the same coefficients, which is the beauty of this method. Okay, then that bit's gone, so I just have my equal sign coming down, and finally I've just got 18 add 7, which gives me 25. Okay, finally to divide by 5 on each side, that will give us x. So whatever number is here in front of x, that's what we divide by. So 25 divided by 5, which gives us 5. Finally x equals 5. And what we then do is we need to figure out what y is. So whenever they tell you to solve simultaneous equations, not only do we need x, we also need y. So we have that x is 5, we just need to figure out what y is. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of this now, I don't really need it anymore. And what I need to do is just pick an equation. So I'm going to pick this bottom one here because it looks a bit simpler. Okay? And since I know that x is equal to 5, then what I can do is put that into this equation. So that x there is going to be a 5. Then I've got -3y equals 7. Okay, so this is actually quite a hard thing to solve. A lot of people don't really like dealing with this. So what I would invite you to do is to start by adding 3y to both sides. I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing that. So some people would be quite happy with just writing plus 3y here on both sides, and then noticing it'll be 5. The plus and the minus here will cancel, okay, because they're opposite in sign, so that would disappear. So we just have an equal sign and then 7 plus 3y. Okay. Then we can take 7 away from both sides, which will give me that negative 2 equals 3y. And the last thing to do is remember divide by the number that's in front of y. So if I divide both sides by 3, it would give me negative 2/3 here. We like fractions. And just y there, okay? Since it would be 3y over 3. 3's cancel. Okay, and just rewriting that gives me y equals negative 2/3. So, there's our two values, right? Now, if I want to check to see if these are correct, I can do that. Since I've already used this equation here at the bottom, why don't I also use the one at the top? And I'm checking to see if it's going to give me 18 as an answer. So I've got 4x plus 3y equals 18. I have an x and a y value, so I've got 4 lots of 5 for x, and 3 lots of negative 2/3 for y. And hopefully that should be 18. 4 times 5 there is 20. And then here we've got 3 multiplied by negative 2/3. So the 3 in the denominator will cancel with the 3 here, since one's a times and one's a divide. And then plus and minus goes to negative, so that's 20 minus 2, or 18. And that is what we see there. So that tells us that our x and y values must both be correct. And so we solve that properly. Okay, I appreciate that one took a little bit longer. Just wanted to make sure you fully understand the method before we sort of dive in and do it a bit faster. Okay, so I'll do another one now. Now you'll see the difference with this one, number 2, is that if we look at coefficients, we have a 5 in front of this x, and you might say there's no number there, but there is. It's not 0, because otherwise there'd be no x. It's actually a 1. Okay, 1x is equal to x, isn't it? But again, 1 and 5, they're different, so they're not the same coefficient. Okay, and then also we've got negative 3 in front of that y and positive 2. So they're not the same. So just like when you have 2 fractions to add and you need a common denominator, we need one of the coefficients, either x or y to have the same coefficient. One of those is going to be easier. So if you thought about the y's here, if we was to make them both into a 6, we would have to times the top equation by 2 and then times the bottom equation by 3, which will end up giving us a 6y for both of these. Appreciate one's negative 6y, one's positive 6y, but that's fine. So, but that would mean we would have to change both of these equations. So a simpler way would be just to take the top one here and times it by 5. Since we have 5x there, if I was to times effectively this 1x here by 5, then it will give me 5x as well, okay? So I'd rather just change 1, that's easier. So basically everything in here just needs to be multiplied by 5 at the top. So that's going to give me 5x, okay, and then negative 3 times 5 is minus 15y, equal sign. Negative 23 times 5 would be negative 115. Okay. I'm not really interested in this equation anymore. I'll use it later when I do my check. But for now, I'm only interested in these two. And there's a reason why I've wrote it in this order. I've wrote it with a more positive number at the top because it's just easier that way usually. Okay, having the negative number at the back, I prefer it that way. So it's just preference. So I'm looking at these 5s here, okay, and I'm not looking at these signs here since they're the signs that you see in front of y. I'm actually looking at what sign is here in front of the 5s, and they're both positive. Okay, You don't see any signs there, but remember, if a 5 is just written like that, the front of an equation, that's implying it's positive. Otherwise, it would have a negative sign in front of it. So actually, we have the same sign here. So remembering our same sign means subtract. Since they're both positive there, what we're actually going to do is subtract like that on each side. Okay? So, if we do 5x take away 5x, that's going to give us nothing here. Remember, we said that for the bit that's the same coefficient, this will always be 0, which is nice. So then I have plus 2y subtract minus 15y. So you see there's two negatives here. So you've got a negative sign here and here. So two negative signs give us a positive. So effectively this is 2y add 15y. So that'll give us 17y there. Then we've got 4 minus 115. Remember, two negative signs there giving you a positive. So we're just going to add these two together, which will give us 119. Okay, and then to find y, we're just going to do 119 divided by 17. I've got a feeling that's about 7 or something, I'm not quite sure, so it's going to be pretty hard, this, isn't it? So can't really do that either. But I know that 170 would be 10 lots, wouldn't it? And then we would have 153 being 9. We would have 136 being 8 lots. Yeah, and then 119 being 7 lots there. So there we go, y equals 7, alright? Could use a calculator for that, but I didn't have one, so y equals 7. And then the last thing to do, remember, is to find x. So this is where I could just go back to this more simple equation that I have here. And remembering I don't need any of this anymore now. Okay. So I've got that y equals 7. So let's start with this. I don't know what x is, that's fine, so I'll just write x minus 3 lots of y is 7, equals negative 23. So just simplify, x minus 21 here equals negative 23. To find x, I need to add 21 to both sides, so x is then on its own. Okay, so if I add 21 to both sides there, that's just going to give me that x equals negative 2. Okay, if you struggle with these, all you need to think about is the difference, which is 2 between 23 and 21. And since the 23 is the bigger number and it's negative, the answer is therefore negative. Okay, so there. So you're looking at which number's bigger for that. So we've got x is negative 2. The last thing I want to do is to perform a check, and I'll do that with this equation here. Hopefully we're going to get an answer of 4. Okay, so we've got 5 lots of x. Remember that x is negative 2. Plus 2 lots of y is 7. Okay, so 5 lots of negative 2 gives us negative 10, and then 2 multiplied by 7 is 14. So we end up with, again we can practice this little technique that we did over here. Difference in 10 and 14 is actually 4. So if I write 4, and then just take note of which number's bigger, that one's the 14, and noticing it's positive, so answer's positive 4. Great, and that's what we see there, so that means we're right there, and that means both of these x and y are right. So all you do in your final answer is just put in your values. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope that helped. If it did, please like and subscribe. I'll do some more videos on simultaneous equations, which go through some harder type of questions, such like quadratics and where you see linear equations meet in circles.